Welcome back to this wonderful channel. So today I'm going to give you some insights into how to get into the flow state, and the theme of this flow block is Dutch. So I'm going to set up everything to get in the zone, and I'm gonna set the timer for an hour and a half, which is my usual sessions length to learn Dutch, and I do that a few times a week. But I really wanted to show you all the peculiar details that are going into the session, from preparation to gradually getting in the zone, staying in the zone, and then eventually calling it off and taking a break to regenerate my energy in order to go into another flow block and all the subsequent flow blocks of the day. All right, so we're gonna go into a bit of a first-person shooter mode right here, because I want to show you the setup. And the reason why you want to set up everything is because flow state revolves a lot around presetting everything, so you don't get disturbed in the middle of your task. Otherwise, it can throw you off and it's really hard to get back in the zone. So, okay. Right here to the left, okay, I have the video notes from today's video, but I use this to write down my Dutch, okay? During the week, I go through my lessons with my private teacher, and I got a bunch of stuff I have to review, and this is from another week. And likewise, as you're gonna see on my computer, if I go in Dutch here, Dutch lessons, Dutch lesson classes with Mark, you see I got a whole bunch of stuff I gotta review. So this is preset, it is there, I know what I have to do for today. I got my pen ready, I got my coffee ready. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my Nootropic stack after I'm done with this, but as you can see, everything is pretty much ready to go. Then I get into flow state a lot with music, so I'm gonna use this, and all my playlists are preset. I know exactly which kind of music helps me dive into what kind of activity. And for example, here I run with deep house. It's a smooth kind of music and it's sending me right in the zone. These are called triggers, by the way. Okay, so later on during the session, I'm gonna do a bit of listening, although I'm gonna start with reviewing the past courses notes that I've taken. Following up, I got another tool, like I need to use Google Translation sometimes, and I also use ChatGPT to give me some sentences, examples, and some exercises. So a small detail, yet very important one, that I omitted yesterday when I spoke about triggers, your work setup, and also the setting, meaning your environment, and avoiding distractions and interruptions, is because flow revolves also on the present moment, on being fully immersed in what you're doing and losing track of time. These are criterias that have been encountered by a lot of people who felt the flow state, who fell into that kind of trance, if you want to, the ultimate state. So you implement your triggers, your routines, and so you drive yourself into the present moment, and you lose kind of your self-awareness, if you want to, up to a point where you become the task. And by becoming yourself the task, you lose track of time and you lose track of your surrounding, giving rise to the flow state. And by avoiding your distractions and interruptions, it allows you to stay in like complete concentration, which is a flow trigger as well, and allows you to dive super deep into that flow state and reap the full benefits until you reach your limit and you ride the wave down, you're coming back ashore into recovery mode. And now we're going back to the original program. Now let me talk about the Nootropic stack. Ah, yes, this coffee is so good. It was gifted to me by my friend's girlfriend. She's from Mexico. She's awesome. And I prepared this with a French press. It tastes amazing from the Chiapas, people. If you want good coffee, you know where to go or to order from. Okay, so nootropics are usually either synthetic or more organic. I use plants such as, I'm not, well, in fact, I'm not sure. Maybe there's a bit of synthetic here. I use alpha GPC, I use Gingko Biloba, and also I use Bacopa Monnieri, which help with focus, memory, blood flow, usually like everything that's driving concentration. And the reason why I do that is because from Monday till Thursday, I have a big agenda for myself and I like to perform, although most of the time I run raw or as sober as I can. The only thing that I will consistently use is caffeine. Otherwise, like I said, I try to go as raw as possible. But for instance, this week I'm on my last training progression. It is heavy. It definitely has a burden on the cognitive aspect of like the total output. So I wake up, I'm not as sharp as I usually am, and I really want to put in the work. I'm dedicated, I'm motivated. So this is just like turning up the dial a little bit so I can be extra focused and plow through everything that I intend to do today. Now that my setup is ready, I gotta make sure that my setting or the environment around me is not going to disturb or throw me out of the flow state. So what I highly recommend is if you start working, for example, with your music box right here, but someone comes inside the room, like I'm not yet working in my own office, so I have to deal with that from time to time. So you have to devise methods to make sure that you stay focused and no one disturbs your focus. This is your responsibility. So I have here a set of noiseless earbuds. I seal the windows and I make sure that I am completely focused. And sometimes the dog barks and it annoys me or it distracts me. So here we go. I got this, making sure that my concentration is bulletproof. So now that I'm in the right mindset, I have my setup ready, my environment is ready as well. There are two things that I always do before getting to work. I log out of Instagram. That's pretty much the only social media I use at the moment. Otherwise, I do also have Facebook, but it's logged out. And the other thing that I do is to preset a timer. So I know that I want to work for an hour and a half and I do not want to be disturbed during that time. So I preset 1 hour and a half and I get to work. And also one last thing, if you are prone to distraction and using your phone and any types of noise make you want to reach out for your phone and someone calls you, it's going to disturb you. So I highly suggest that you go in silent mode. Now that I have given you all the details related to presetting the session, I'm going to get to work and I'm gonna do a time lapse. And after that time lapse, I'm going to report and give you feedback on how the session went, if there was any disturbing agents, if there was any type of resistance, or if it was like a super flowy session and why it was a super flowy session. So see you in a bit. report from the session. It went pretty well. I didn't have any external distraction, although about 45 minutes into 1 hour, usually I start to feel the pull of some form of resistance, and it happens because the brain becomes overloaded with information. And I find Dutch especially difficult to learn. I learned Mandarin Chinese, I learned Spanish, I speak French and English as well. And Dutch, for some reason that I cannot explain, gives me quite a headache sometimes. So I become a little bit overloaded. So I went for a bathroom break and I do a bit of sky gazing. So as you can see behind me, there's a nice window where I can let my eyes wander for the time of a few breaths. Just to like let the brain cool down a bit, and eventually I get back to it. And I felt a lot of resistance after the first break, so I kept going anyways. Like I keep pushing myself because there's always some form of resistance that's gonna show up during your sessions, especially if you go for 90 minutes. So I kept going, and then once the writing became like super hard, I moved on to the listening exercises, and I repeat the words and I practice pronunciation and everything, and I kept pushing and pushing. I took a second break and I kept pushing a little bit, and it amounted to 1 hour and 20 minutes. My goal was to do 90 minutes, but I was 10 minutes short. I felt like the cognitive load was just becoming too much and I wasn't paying attention, so I just cut it short like that. I've used a lot of mental of my mental capacity, and I need to cool down, give my brain a complete rest. So I need to stay away from cognitive tasks or cognitively demanding tasks for some time. Everyone is different. I've done writing flow block first thing in the morning of about 1 hour and 15 minutes, and I did my meal prep and I ate breakfast. Now I just got done doing my second flow block, so my brain has been quite solicited this morning. Now I'm gonna do something more physical. I'm gonna get active and I go to the gym. So that's my thing. You may go for a walk, you may do meditation, just want to do something that is not gonna require a lot of cognitive effort. And to me, this is just going for the pump at the gym, and it frees my mind. It changes my energy, everything. To recap the whole session and all the stages of the flow cycle, like first of all, I did set up my challenge, which is learning Dutch, and I give myself the challenge to go through the whole period of 1.5 hours and master as many words as I can and as much Dutch as I can throughout that period. So it keeps me on edge, it keeps me alert, it keeps me concentrated. Then after that, I made sure that my setup, which are all of my tools, were ready, that my setting was allowing me to enter deep concentration, which is a flow trigger, and that I wouldn't get disturbed. So everything is ready, everything is leaning towards performance in a sense, or to reap the most benefits that I could from the session. Then I got into flow, but since the cognitive load is intense when learning a new language, it's like an engine overheating. You need to cool down a bit, which is like the release mechanism. So I release tension, I let my brain consolidate information during that time. So that was the going to the bathroom break, sky gazing. I cool down for that bit, I give my mind a rest so I can keep on going and eventually kick back into like some higher gears, which is flow. So I'm staying in flow during the whole time, but at one point I recognized like I cannot go any further, and there's no point of overtaxing your system because eventually you'll pay the price. So if you dig too hard during that period, then you're gonna need a bigger rest, and most probably, just like if you would be flexing a muscle, you won't be able to keep going throughout the day with your other set or your other flow blocks. And finally, a very crucial phase, which is not really talked about in circles of performances, is the recovery stage. This is the stage where you are not really doing anything, or you're not doing anything that requires heavy mental exertion or learning, because otherwise you enter another flow cycle, and this is very demanding. It's like always soliciting your brain. At one point you need to have the discipline to stop whatever you're doing and allow your brain to fully rest. And now my recovery is the gym, but while I go to the gym, I cruise my bike, I prepare my gears, I take some time off, and then eventually I go there and I get in the zone. But I'm an athlete, so to me, training is a very physical thing, but it's not as much a mental thing. So I like to kind of play with things like that throughout the day, mix the physical and the mental together, so I can allow both to get the rest they need in order to go through all the flow blocks and go through every single day of the week, and eventually go through all of my seasons and sustain those performances. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate that you take your time and your energy to watch the content that I post on this channel. If you ever have any questions in relationship to the mindset and the flow state principles, comment down below, ask me a question. It will be my pleasure to help you with your endeavors, your dreams, your goals. Likewise, if you think that you could benefit from one-on-one coaching, I'd be more than happy to collaborate with you. So reach out on Instagram at Digestionist. I will put the link to my Instagram in the description down below. Have a good one. May you have an awesome and productive day. Tot kaya.